Hello, I'm Smoky957 and welcome to a Twin Mothers campaign, and this time I'm going to be aligning myself with Lanius' cohort, and together we'll be able to take on whatever the wasteland has to throw at us. In this episode I want to form the cult of Diana, get rid of this peace and love national spirit, explain how computational strength and the nursery works, show you my army that I've envisioned to fight beside Lanius, and also I want to throw in some lore and tips and tricks along the way. Now, I've never had a problem getting Lanius to agree to form an alliance with me, but just in case you want to make 100% sure that it does go right, I want you to come here to custom game rules, and then under the AI behavior, find Lanius' cohort and change their path to the res publica, which will ensure that everything goes to plan. So let's get started. Alright, and here we go. So first I want to just point out to some of those who haven't actually looked at this properly the Pip-Boy Plus, which is a nice little encyclopedia you can activate here at the question mark, and it gives some nice interesting information about the regions, some unique mechanics in the game, as well as a list of change logs that goes along the way. As for Twin Mothers itself, we have Diana, God of the Machine, which gives us some fantastic boosts to stability, war support, PP gain, division defense, and daily compliance. We have the Nursery, which is a very nice, unique mechanic that we'll explore as this campaign goes through. Peace and Love, however, is not great at all. Probably, in my opinion, one of the worst debuffs any nation has in this game. So I want to get rid of this in this episode. Old Nursery Stockpile gives you a debuff to robot research, as well as an increased production cost for combat and support robots. And then we start out with the Followers of the Apocalypse. Only Twin Mothers and the NCR are the only countries that actually start with this national spirit. I would have to make do with it as we go along. As for decisions for bottle caps, I'm just going to keep military signing bonus. I'm not going to start a scavenging program. Don't care about the organization. Operations, I'm going to keep highlighted in case they come right. Political actions can go. Interactions with the followers, I'm just going to keep this one here highlighted so I can get a bit of extra population in a free civilian workshop. Drastic measures can also go away. Voltec calling I'll keep activated, and I'm going to disable the audio holotapes. I am going to start a intelligence agency. I think I use that symbol there. Then as for research, I know many other people advise you to go heavily into your industry and engineering tabs over here. I personally prefer to always have one on some kind of military research. I believe that staying ahead of the game when it comes to military pays off very nicely in the long run. So I'm going to start off getting the enforcers. Then I am going to get work as needed. You do start off with quite a lot of these already researched, which is quite nice. And then under engineering, I'm going to go for Ohm's law for the research speed. One nice thing about knowing that I'm going to align with Lanius is that I don't have to rush my defenses and my armor production. I have some breathing space when it comes to that, which is quite nice. For construction, I have set up just a couple of arms and civilian workshops, starting with the states that have the highest infrastructure down to the lowest. And just a tip that I want to show you right now, if you are looking at defending twin mothers, I advise that you just give up the mystery case here. There are 3 different fronts to protect, and if you lose either one of them, whatever units you have will inevitably be very quickly encircled and wiped out. And mystery caves only gives you, there's 1 naval dockyard and I think about 4 or so scrap metal, so not that important. This is the line I advise you forming your defenses on. 3 tiles wide, nice choke points, easy to defend, no way someone can get around you and take out all your units. For production, I'm going to cancel the robots, focus everything on my recurve bows, and I'm going to start constructing my favorite ship, the medium longboat. The template you start out with, we have tribal scouts, nice little 6 width militia, I'm not going to use that. Wastelands Amazons is a 18 width pure infantry division. Then we have Joys of Diana, which is 12 width support robot division, and Goddess's Reach, which is a nice split of combat and support robots, also 12 width. I'm going to start off with training some more Wasteland Amazons, and I'm actually going to take all my starting units, which is 5, but you can see very inexperienced, and I'm going to change them to Wastelands Amazons, and my unit leader is going to be Ruth. Now I know Akisha Moon seems the more obvious choice, she has better stats, but as we'll find out hopefully in this episode, the reason why you don't want to go with her. So Ruth it is, and that brings me on to our lovely little focus tree. I'm going to be starting off with I was like you once. Who am I? It's been quite a long time since I've been asked this question, and I could talk endlessly about what I am now and what I have done. Perhaps it is better for me to start with who I once was in another life. So I have set my speed to 5. Let's get started. So Diana Stone was once a scientist. You want to hear of where I came from and not what I am? It is a rare one can muster the courage to ask such a question, but I can oblige your utter curiosity. I am, well in life I was Diana Stone. A while ago, back before the war, I got a degree at MIT before travelling out west and participating in a few governmental studies. People back then told me that I had a great career path that would have put me up there with some of the greatest minds of my generation. Brawn House, you know. Sadly, I never saw myself working with people like that. Academia at the time had this certain stigma against morality, figuring that caring for the well-being of any soul was a weakness that the communists didn't have. Hence something we needed to get rid of if we were going to win. It's that kind of whatever it takes attitude that led Voltec getting into the toxic, cannibalistically cynical research headspace it ended up in. Got offered a few jobs. Rogco, Big Ink Mountain, honestly turned them all down in favor of a little upstart. Greenway Hydroponics, that was what the company I eventually signed up for was called. Derek Greenway was particular, but I felt like he distanced himself enough from academia where it was safe to work with him, was the sort that understood that the Vault project was more than just precaution. Moving on to the next one. I don't blame the others of academia. They were all scared back then. It was a constant. You had to live your life when you had to a certain level of understanding that could pull the curtains of America back. It was an innate fear, the idea that your life work will get washed away by molecular heat of thousands of atomic bombs landing over your head. Why even work when you could see what waited for you at the end of the world. It was like living on a train with no brakes, knowing that the track didn't go on forever. I remember at least from halfway through the 2070s, people's academia began to put more efforts into research based on preservation after the inevitable, rather than trying to subvert it. At least those that weren't chained by the government. Have trouble grabbing their names, but Braun, Calvert were a few I can remember. They all had their sweet little plots to continue as they had, little snow globes that they could fall into as they watched the world they helped forge fall into the fingers through their fingers like sand. Me, I wasn't like them at first. I sort of lost myself at such a prospect. I began looking into matters of the spirit and philosophy, read Kant, Leszczynski, eventually moved on to religion, mythology, anything I could get my hands on. In hindsight, may have just a soul lashing out to the wall, trying to find some framework I could place my mind into that could help me continue my work, my own little snow globe. It was bad at first, but the cancer prognosis that really made me lose myself. And we get 50 political power for reading all of that, which means I can take this decision here to get an extra civilian workshop in the fields and 20% extra monthly population for 100 days. My next focus is going to be fate gave me a bad hand. Like Icarus, who got too close to the sun, I fell from the esteemed world of academia, nearly losing myself in the process. Each agonizing day in my body was only slowing down the inevitable. I almost lost all hope, but until Derek gave me an out, a way of cheating my fate. Alright, the nursery is operational. The nursery is where Diana currently lives, a hidden bunker far away from the lands of the Twin Mothers. We use a complex series of scouts and tunnels to send resources towards the Twin Mothers from this location. The best part? The rest of the wasteland is none the wiser to our presence here. Okay, now, for those that don't know, Paradise is located here in the Black Canyon area, and it was built for a similar reason as the vaults, but instead it was to protect seeds and plant life from the nuclear war. Its creator connected it to Vault 29, which is here in Twin Mothers, in the hopes of manipulating Vault-Tech's computer overseer Zach 29 and changing his cruel experiment into a peaceful one, therefore creating a peaceful society that would emerge into the wasteland after the war was over. So we get the Twin Mothers has all the right to all the resources in Paradise. Okay, Diana Stone, a victim. I essentially stopped all my work when the doctors told me how much time I had left. It wasn't even the world that had taken my future from me, but my own body. Suddenly, instead of me being merely distant from academia, I was shunned altogether. Went from a brilliant upcomer to someone that was shamed, someone that could have been great, but fate played a bad hand. I was a wreck. I actually got into drinking for a while, believe it or not. It takes a lot to make a lady of science voluntarily poison herself like that. Derek, my boss at Greenway Hydroponics, was the only person who actually seemed to take pity on me. We were kindred souls in a way, believing in how academia had fallen and failed the world as an institution in letting such a thing as this come to pass. At first, I thought his attempts at pity on me were mostly to give myself a way to say goodbye before the world took me. It was more than that. One night after we were wrapping up a date, he took me by the shoulder, then whispered a few words into my ear. Miss Stone, you think fate gave you a bad hand? They gave us all a bad hand. This world is doomed. We can't change the inevitable. We can, however, make the best with the world we have got. We don't have to stop playing the game. We can't win this game. We can win this game. Make the world a better place. Make it so that people don't have to play anymore. A better world. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a set of technical documents. Sure, okay. They were stolen documents from Derek's time working with the government. Prototypes are some sort of Zach's RoboBrain hybrid, a new type of supercomputer that would be years ahead of any system currently in production. Even the highly touted standalone Zach's units would pale in comparison. He proposed building a computer that could take a quantum leap forward by being able to pose the simplest of questions. With this in mind, he devised a system that would house a human brain with each hemisphere, logical and initiative linked to a Zach's unit. The human mind would have vast amounts of computation power and almost unlimited storage capacity at its disposal. Who could predict what such a mind would be capable of doing? In hindsight, I imagine Derek designed the system for himself. I think in the end he saw using me this way as a better way to play his cards, could direct me from the outside such a machine. Of course, I only had a few months left. I gave my parents some notice and took him up on his offer. When I awoke from the operation, at first I was overjoyed at the success. Sure, my arms and limbs, my body were gone, but I could see through the sensors of the machine. Sure, I had no arms, but I could reach out to the robots on the network to directly control. Sure, I was of metal, but I still had a soul. It was still me. As the months progressed, however, I began to doubt the wisdom of becoming part of a machine. My hearing was acute, but too much so. I could hear into a range far above normal. It was disturbing to hear the twittering of cockroaches in the other room, the heart palpitations of Greenway interns as they walked past my metal chassis. My eyesight was perfect, but once again too perfect. My vision showed a sharpness of clarity that made the world look unreal, the way a single strand of hair fractures and shatters at the ends, mites digging and coating the skin, sweat rolling off the skin and dissolving on the floor. The most disturbing aspect of her was my lack of touch. A few years and I missed the weight of clothing, the touch of a cool breeze. Everything that made me human was either changed or gone. They told me that I could live forever, but at what cost? It felt like a prison to me, this expanded existence. And we're going to get another 50 political power. So time for my first advisor. And just with almost every nation you play in Old World Blues, manpower is one of your most precious resources. And Twin Mothers is definitely no different. So the first advisor I'm going to choose is not going to be my beloved Gecko Company, but instead I'm going to choose this head physician so I can get a permanent 20% of my monthly population and an extra 10% recruitable population factor. And the next focus, the last one in our little development tree, will be, despite it all, I persevered. Derek saved my life, but after the bombs fell, he and I went our separate ways. Before he departed, Derek imparted onto me something precious, something that would give me, the entity known as Diana, a second chance at leaving her mark on the wastes. Okay, so Diana's been a scientist, she's been a victim, now she's going to be a savior. I knew that she had come to grips with what I had become. Derek some nights would come into my mainframe room and just talk to me for hours. I still enjoyed communicating with Derek even after all that had happened. He explained to me how RoboBrains, which essentially I was, just expanded, need some sort of outlet if they were to hold on to what had made them human. I recall mentioning continuing my philosophical studies I had done before my operation. The next morning he came in with a holotape filled with a practical library of the world's knowledge. It gave me some comfort to roll into these delusions of grandeur and the spirit as I was installed into the nursery, an EPA greenhouse project designed around being a parallel to the Voltec project, but for the fauna of the world rather than the people themselves. After all, you couldn't rebuild if you didn't have the seeds you needed to properly remove mutant fauna and cultivate the world's sickened mass. It was there in the nursery that I would overhear Derek's own snow globe as he prepared for himself. He had laid out plans to subvert Vault 29. He wanted to take control of the Zach's overseer installed into the facility, use it to teach the people there a predetermined culture of privatalism in the hopes that the culture would be different from which birthed them. I remember arguing with Derek about this, how it was immoral to deny the wealth of humanity's splendor to any individual, that it was their birthright to inherit what humanity had made, faults and all. There was so much culture in the world. How right was he to say who couldn't have it? We began to drift away after that. And another one. It was only after the bombs fell that I began to lose myself. When Derek learned I wasn't willing to go along with his plan, he began to distance himself from me. After the radiation surrounding the nursery reached safe levels, Derek one night took his followers out and left the nursery, saying this was how this nursery project had become more about me than the facility itself. He entrusted me as a safeguard, told me to protect the nursery until a day when he and his followers would return to help rebuild the wasteland. I couldn't stand the loneliness. 1 year, 2, 10, I missed having people to talk to. A facility this massive with only the beast to chatter with. It was then that I began to look into the connections Greenway had established before his departure with Vault 29. I watched the people in that vault for some time, how they managed themselves, how they waited for their Zax to speak to them. They were the only people I could watch. I rooted for them, followed the events of their little lives, thought back on how their lives reminded me of my own. Eventually I made a choice. I wanted to go along with Derek's plan, but in my way. I wanted to help these people directly and guide them as a mother. I wanted to be my legacy. They would treat me as a goddess, myself their savior. Together we would make the world a better place. Okay, and that's another 50 political power. And now on to the actual majority of the tree itself. Now we have this left branch here is all around the nursery, the factory, and will give me some nice boosts, including I think it's up to 3 more research slots and some extra tech. On the right we have my children, we have our, if you can call it, military focus over here, Vault 29 itself, and then these 2 little branches at the bottom here which rely on other things in the wasteland happening to actually activate. And in the center we have the main one, which controls your 3 paths available to you. So either fighting and winning Lanius against Lanius here in the center, fighting and losing against Lanius where you'll actually get a second chance to restart at Paradise, or the route we're going to go through, which will be actually allying with Lanius. So I'm going to start off with my children. My children, I remember their youth as if it was yesterday, all those years ago, still underground and desperate for guidance in those dark times. I ordered Zax to teach them the ways of the world, of peace and respect for nature as well as life, of the goddess Diana's return to guide them to prosperity. And so I did return to lead them into this new age. And we'll get 1 computational power for this. Now computational power is part of the mechanic in the nursery here, is part of this top bit here. So for every extra computational strength you get, you can see here we start at 18, you get a bonus to political power gain, number of factories in a state, and a production efficiency boost. So whenever you actually get a chance of increasing Diana's computational power, you'll also be increasing all these bonuses. And before we carry on, I just want to go to the gun runners, buy some pipe weapons, as I am very short of those, and we'll see what happens in 45 days. Alright, so my intelligence agency is finally created. I'm going to start off with getting myself a cryptology department. So my children's completed. I did pick up another advisor along the way. I got Doc's Medical Company, again, more monthly population, and if I ever do produce some support equipment, it'll now be extra reliable and cost 15% less. My next focus is actually going to be, I'm going to go down the route here, a prosperous village assess the tribe, and then the fields. This is, I believe, the quickest way to get one of the DNA samples we need to get our first research slot. So, a prosperous village. Twin mothers composed of the descendants of Vault 29's residents, as well as Diana's children, is a peaceful and happy tribe prospering under her guidance. They, however, cannot stay innocent forever. We must make sure to prepare them against the harshness of the wastes. And this we're going to get a very nice 150 political power. Alright, that's my Enforcer gear researched. I'm going to move on to next with that slot onto the bicycle, because unfortunately we don't start with that. And I will be immediately starting to produce as much crowd control gear as possible. And since I have the money, it is time to buy me some more guns, as I am still short, and then another upgrade for my intelligence agency. I've got the first level radar interception group. I'm going to get the second. This decryption power is what actually determines how fast you can actually decrypt another nation's cipher and get the bonuses, either active or passive, that comes with that. And a few in-game days later, Prosperous Village is completed, so now I have a fantastic 238 political power. So I'm going to spend it on getting the sergeant here over the conscript. You can't have both. It'll give my infantry equipment a little bit extra soft attack, but more importantly, minus 5% to my production cost and plus 50 to the gunrunner opinion. And then I'm also going to grab person of the community, which will give me some plus 5% stability, even though it's pretty high. More is always better, and extra 0.1 to my political power gain. Now, continuing on the branch I said I was going to start, I'm going to assess the tribe now. To properly support our tribal allies, we must make sure to understand their way of life and train of thoughts first and foremost. We should assess their capability as far as support of our cause goes, and provide the needed supplies to help them develop further. This could be just an extra development in Twin Mothers, since Twin Mothers is actually a little trade node at level 3. Ooh, let me promote it while I'm here. Okay, so that's some more development for Twin Mothers secured. Now I'm going to do the fields, so I can get this Brahmin DNA, the extra 3 building slots, and population change is a bit of a bonus. The fields are vast, almost untouched plains upon which many herds of Brahmin go to graze. Its location and grassland terrain make it perfect to develop the tribe further. As such, we will make preparations to extend the tribal village to its windswept lands. Furthermore, the Brahmin could be herded and domesticated. Now, on my military side of things, I want to get a commanding officer. I'm going to choose Helena here. Again, not touching Moon, for reasons you'll find out later on. And then I have my first naval ship, so I want you to join me in finding out who my random commander is. Evangeline there. Oh, retreat chant, just, oh, that's not great, but I suppose it is what it is. So, auto repair and start training. Alright, so scrap bicycle has been researched. I'm not going to produce it right now, but I'm also now going to move on to researching the glider. I'm not going to build them as well, but I'd rather have that researched, so when the time comes for me to build an air force or logistics, at least I have the stuff already researched. Alright, the fields have been boosted, so it's time for me to go to the other end of the tree here, and I want to start on the nursery. Hidden away from mankind's madness, its ambitions, and even the wasteland itself lies a nursery. Decades of pre-war construction efforts, years of research, months of the most minute changes and refinement all led to the secret paradise, an untouched Garden of Eden, the last serene place in the wasteland. And we'll get the event managing the nursery. Alright, that's my glider researched. Now I want to move on to some support equipment I do start with dynamite already. I want to get myself some anti-tank rifles, so I can add that onto my template for piercing whoever gets in my way. And something that I just finished picking up is I got lock and load for the ballistic weapons research speed and some extra 10% soft attack, and then I went for just the normal land doctrine research advisor, also so I can get the daily army experience, so I can create my template. Okay, I've already explained what the nursery is all about, but let's read through this anyways. The nursery is a miracle of pre-war engineering. It is a self-contained, balanced ecological system set within a deep canyon. The valley floor of the canyon is rife with the flora and fauna of times past. At the head of the valley is a lake of crystal blue water that feeds a river. The river flows from one end of the valley to the other, disappearing into the canyon wall. Bordering the lake are several buildings that house the maintenance equipment that keeps the nursery functioning. The nursery is where Diana lives. From there she can project herself to Vault 29 within Twin Mothers territory and lead the tribe. The nursery is not located within our own territory at the start of the game. It is located deep within Black Canyon territory within the state paradise. The location of the nursery is so secret that the Black Canyon Raiders do not even know of its existence there. Managing the nursery is practically a full-time job for Diana. Hover over your nursery idea, that's this little rose here we've been using so far, to get a complete tooltip explaining the various factors involved within managing the nursery. Must I bother? This is so boring. I'll take the 10,000 caps. And something I'm not sure if I mentioned yet is we increased the computational power by 1, so it's now got up to 19%, and that has now given a 0.2% increase to the political power of the factories and my production efficiency. My next focus, because I'm heading down to try get this research slot, is the repository. So we'll get a research bonus for agriculture, which is nice. The repository, a secondary wing of the factory, is a DNA database it uses to manufacture the numerous biological components needed to provide for the nursery. Expanding it further and allowing for tertiary rings, dedicated to new samples as well as active research, could open new avenues of research into wasteland fauna and flora. Okay, so the repository is finished. Before I get on to my next focus, I want to spend some of my money on getting military signing bonus and get more manpower up. There's nothing I really want to grab right now until I can change these policies here, which I can't with this damn peace and love in force. So I'm just going to get my cast manufacturer to make my planes better and stronger, and then I'll take the last step, collecting specimens, so I can get another very useful research slot. Alright, so we have some raiders on the horizon. Recently a shaman has reached out to me with dire words of warning. Raiders, unlike those of Scorpion's Bite or the daughters of Hecat, march close to the lands of the tribe. They are known slavers, a people bathed in cruelty and malice. Could these be the same people that hurt poor Hecat's tribe? At least something new. I was getting bored. Alright, here we are, meeting a legend. Eventually I invited the leader of these raiders, a certain Lanius, to meet me deep within Vault 29. My robotic guardians escorted him and his cohorts to the vault. Then we had a conversation. For one thing, speaking with someone who viewed me with such equality was a strange sensation. I haven't spoken with someone like this since I had spoken with Hecat, Reese, or that prisoner from Tibbet's prison a few decades ago. Our talk was enjoyable. I got to pick through Lanius's head a bit, although he is the kind of wasteland sort that seems driven. The winds of change follow the path he walks. I don't know if I'll be able to keep him from attacking my children with gifts alone. From here, my children's survival will depend on how I proceed. Do I tell the shamans to prepare the tribe for war, or do I try to convince Lanius that what he is doing is wrong? Perhaps, after all, if a man cannot be controlled directly by beck and call, then he can be manipulated through a skilled counter-argument to his beliefs. My mind is augmented by the strength of 2 Zaks. Surely I can come up with something. Now, if you want to go to war with him, to either win or lose, you would choose this second selection here. I am going to try and convince him. Get the event a blood-stained olive branch. Carpe diem. Lanius has agreed to our pact. Ultimately, I wasn't sure what swayed him more in the end, the argument itself, or rather another deep worry that crawled at the back of his mind. It's hard for me to get a good gauge on his character. Still, I'm thankful he saw reason. I will need to begin the necessary preparations if we are going to take on the mighty Kaiser himself. I guess there's a saying goes, when in Rome. Right. Okay, so we automatically complete swaying a legend and meeting a legend. Alright, that's my anti-tank rifles researched. Now, I'm not going to research anything more that requires production because my industry is still quite small. So I'm going to move on to warrior training because I also need it for my focus tree later on. And I'm going to set up my anti-tank rifles to be produced when I get enough factories. Okay, now that collecting specimens is done, common sense would be that I continue along one of the other paths to unlock some more research slots or other focuses that will boost twin mothers, but I want to continue down this branch here. You see, in my opinion, getting rid of that peace and love natural spirit is possibly, which is, as I said before, possibly the most negative spirit out there, will do more for me than right now than any other boosting focus will. And also, besides, along the way, I am going to pick up a few free workshops. So let me start off with Horned Advisors for the Tribe. Weaponry alone cannot ensure our citizens' security. To hold our land against the harsh wasteland, we must learn tactics and strategy to an extent we would never have thought of before. Our alliance with Lanius means that we regularly get military envoys. Learning all that we can from those experienced officers is capital to our efforts. So 2 workshops, and every unit leader is going to get a planning skill bonus. Now, as for my extra research slot, I do have something big planned for it, but right now I want to at least start. I'm going to bettering what weapons I have. So advanced recurve bow it is. Alright, so with Horned Advisors for the Tribe done, I just want to point out that I am not actually in an alliance with Lanius yet. He still needs to complete his mission up here towards Dog City before he splits away from Kaiser. And since I don't think I have enough units yet to send volunteers, I'm saving up some political power to send a military advisor when he does continue his war against Summers Federation and whoever else. But for my next focus, so I can... Oh, well, what do you know? That's happened right now. So I'm going to go with Army of the Tribe. So both of us are going to get 750 units of infantry equipment, and I'm going to get an extra 2 workshops. If we are to take on Kaiser, we need to arm ourselves. We can't just be the robots on Diana's control that fight for freedom. Every child must be ready to defend what they hold dear. So let me actually see if I can send an attaché. Send volunteers. Yeah. Need 8 divisions. I've only got 7. So let me send an attaché. Oh, they will not accept. Never mind. We'll try that later on. Alright, so both tribes have been armed. So the next step I'm going to go with is settlers from the cohort. Again, I'm going to get some workshops, but my state population is going to increase dramatically. Why? And that is because stories of the strange Twin Mothers tribe and its territories have spread far and wide. Already intellectuals and craftsmen travel to our land seeking a better life than within Legion territory. We will welcome them with open arms and value the wealth of knowledge they bring with them. And then I wanted to show you why I can't send a attaché to the Legion. That is because I have still have a negative opinion of me. So while my one operative is busy here at Circle Junction creating an Intel network, my other is doing some diplomatic pressure to try increase their opinion of me. And the last thing I want to show you is I have finally finished the template I'm going to be using for my main army force, and I decided to use it more of a role playing than anything else, but I still believe it's going to work quite well. It is a 20th infantry unit using enforcer armor, because whenever I picture Greek, Roman or Amazon warriors, they're always wearing some kind of armor, you know, breastplate, helmets and all that. I've got some demolitions for a little bit extra soft attack and breakthrough, and some anti-tank to pierce anyone else wearing armor. It just didn't seem right for me to be using combat and support robots fighting alongside Lanius legionaries, and this is a similar template I would be using if I was playing as Lanius, so it just worked out right. Another thing that is nice is this extra armor and hardness will help me, because again, for role-playing purposes, I've decided not to use power armor, although I will be unlocking special forces if my plan works out in the next episode. But already these stats are already better than what I was constructing, the generic wasteland Amazons. Soft attack and hard attack and all that is a lot better. So once this unit is finished in production, I'll start on my new Amazon Warriors template and start converting the units I have to this one. And then another surprise you might not be expecting is my land doctrine I'm going to be using is not any one of these 3. It's actually going to be asymmetric warfare. I just really think that it'll work out quite nicely, and it'll give me some nice boosts for my very infantry heavy attacking force, and works out with Diana's obsession with history and philosophy and all that. So I'll be doing asymmetric warfare. This research slot will be grinding straight through it as fast as I possibly can. So while we welcome the new settlers to Twin Mothers, let me carry on with the Pilgrim Trail. Yeah, let's do the Pilgrim Trail. With our continual efforts to stay on good terms and cooperate with Lanius, he has now proposed to us to switch our currency to that of his cohort, the denarius. The offer has been made even more tempting by the offer of additional trade caravans opening lucrative financial opportunities as well as a vast array of manufactured goods for our subjects. So more workshops, we've changed away from bottle caps, stability is good, extra expenses goes down 25%, and we get 200k, which is damn nice. So we're now using some lovely Legion denaries, and the next focus I don't want to take but need to take is Automia Hastii, I think that's pronounced. Lanius' territory possesses vast swaths of pre-industrial facilities containing advanced research. To further our might and protect our territories, we must gain additional insight into military robotics. We will petition Lanius for study material from these ruins to create our own military robot division, the Automia Hastii. You never know, maybe still do robotics, but it's not on the cards for me right now. Okay, so Automia Hastii is completed. Still not sure if that's how you pronounce it. You may notice here that I did try send some volunteers down to help Lanius against the executives, but by the time they got there, Lanius was literally days away from winning. So, at least I tried. Now, I want to do the focus Cult of Diana. This is one I have literally been waiting all episode to do. Just as the might of Lanius is revered by his cohort, Diana is revered by the twin mothers as a fair and just goddess. Her unwavering guidance a light in those dark times. Maybe it would be for the best to try to connect our people's faith with that of Lanius' cohort. Doing so would surely give hope to this hellish wasteland and further help to assist our pact in its mission. Alright, that's my advanced recurve bow researched. So now I'm going to move on with additional plating for my enforcer armor, and let me start upgrading the weapons for my troops. Finally, the Cult of Diana. An ocean away, over 2,500 years ago, the Cult of Diana first spread out from Diana's mirror south of the mythical Alpine Mountains. There she echoed much from the old deity Artemis, and became a patroness of the countryside, hunters, crossroads, and the moon. Among the Legion, we can now start this faith once again, taking on the face of Diana as Diana once did to Artemis, continuing a tradition unbroken for millennia. Now this is actually a real thing. I checked this up on good old-fashioned Google, and Diana was a god for both the Greek and Roman cultures back in the day. Okay, so twin mothers will now be known as the Cult of Diana. Are you ready? And boom, there we go. Cult of Diana formed. And now the last focus I want to do for this episode is the realm of the goddess, to get rid of this damn peace and love. And you can see all the effective changes it's going to have for me here. To all that hear me, cherish my voice, for you have heard the call of your salvation. For centuries you have lived in squalor and filth, adopting backward practices that are the antithesis of a civilized life. I will bring the torch of knowledge and liberty to each and every one of you, as you all deserve better than your current affliction. You may not realize it yet, but I am releasing you from a doomed, cynical existence, and in time you will thank me for it. That is damn good. Something else I was able to do is finally was able to change my economic and military policy. So I've moved up from Diana's protection up to Diana's auxiliaries. I won't go any further because I'll start getting negatives, but at least I get a 7% population boost. And I've gone from whatever it was called before up to funding the army. So now instead of 40% of my factory is going to consumer goods, it's only 25% now. If I can, I obviously jumped up to well-equipped army. Oh, this is starting to look really good. And this is why I didn't set Akisha Moon as one of my unit commanders. Akisha's last straw. Akisha Moon and a group of followers of Apocalypse have been among the Twin Mothers for nearly 20 years, yet our tribe's recent militarization has caused them to grow wary of us. In protest, Akisha has taken her followers of the Apocalypse and left our lands, heading back out west. But we thought we were friends. So yeah, we swap Followers of the Apocalypse for Followers of the Apocalypse Rejected. I'm alright with that. And welcome everyone to the realm of the goddess. And now that that pesky peace and love national spirit has been dealt with, I'm going to end the episode here. I hope excuse me, I hope you enjoyed watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Goodbye.